I'm not sure. I'm not sure if my microphone is working or not. I'm gonna test it on my phone. I'm gonna check my own live stream just to see if I can hear myself and try to figure out what's going on. Because you know what? Sometimes it can be hard to tell. Oh yeah, I think. I'm gonna create an echo. I better stop that. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, we're gonna put that away. Uh, guys, how y'all doing? Kyle the Drink Pro here with you. This is a totally impromptu live. Matter of fact, I'm sitting outside, so I gotta put on a little bug spray because the bugs around here, the mosquitoes around here, are no freaking. We got mosquitoes like you wouldn't believe. I had been underestimating them until we got our new property, and they started hitting me like crazy. So, what's up, Trevor? How you doing, man? But yeah, I just had a really shitty day, to be honest, and I figured a good way to combat that would be to get on a live stream, drink with some friends. I want this to be a little bit less. Hey, there we go. That should be a lot better. Oh, yeah. But anyway, it was a pretty rough day, unfortunately. A lot of big expenses with the new house. I don't know what kind of quality the stream's going to put out, but we're going to do the best we can, guys. So I'm going to be drinking this 1792 full proof, but it's the Rural Inn Pick number 5. Most people don't know what that is or what that's about, but Rural Inn picks a lot of tasty pours, and number 5 actually is one of the more highly sought after full proof pours. At the time when I bought it, people didn't think much about it. It sat on the shelves much longer than your average pour does today. But somebody I know bought a bottle of that. I think I paid $50 for it. Somebody I know bought a bottle of it for, I believe it was over $120. So 1792 full proof picks can be really worth it sometimes. This one, honestly, is one of my favorites. I don't usually go for a lot of the 1792 products, to be honest with you. But this particular pick is really good, and you can see I'm running kind of low of it. I hope that tomorrow people that are tuning into this stream will tune in to my scheduled stream where I'm going to be drinking several different bottles, finishing them off, getting ready for the new house. What's in this glass right now? Oh, I think this is the Larceny still. This is not the full proof yet. This is the Larceny 1792 A120, which I'll be killing tomorrow. Actually, I saved myself a sample of this too because in the near future I'm going to be doing a review of 3 different Larceny barrel proofs. And I would be happy to review more if people have them. The A120, the B520, and the B521. I would love to review all of the Larceny products that have been released, but I'm not going to push very hard to find them, to be honest. If I can find them, great. If I can't, that's okay too. I think we still got Trevor hanging out here. I'm hoping more people will join in, but that's always the risk with doing things impromptu. You never really know what's going on. You never really know if people are going to tune in or not. To be honest, I don't know what else is going on with Whiskey Tube tonight. I'm assuming somebody's got a live stream. It seems like every fucking night someone has a live stream. I say that with more disdain than I really mean. I'm glad that it's so lively. I'm glad that there's so much going on in the Whiskey Tube world. It looks like the Mash and Drum has a live stream at 9 for his anniversary show. But I don't know if I'll tune into that or not. Probably not, to be honest with you. I mean, I like Jason fine, but it never felt like a community. I never felt like I could just ask people questions and just chat with them and just feel like they were real human beings. And, maybe that's more of a function of how I'm interacting with the channel than it is Jason or anybody else working with those channels interacting with me. I sent Jason some fun samples. I should have been more engaged about when he was going to review them and what that was going to look like. But I didn't hear much from him. And it was disappointing because I was pretty proud of those samples. But that's how life is, man. Sometimes you get what you want. Sometimes you don't. So let's get into the 1792 foolproof. Now, this picture's so grainy because I'm actually on my laptop, which is a rather old laptop, but hopefully the audio is okay because these headphones are actually pretty solid, I gotta say. Travis says it matters if you get notifications of the lives too. Yes, and that is why you should subscribe and click the bell. If you subscribe, you can see my stuff in your feed, but if you click the bell, you get those notifications, and that makes a big difference. So yeah, this, today I discovered that there were more mold issues in our house than originally thought. We had an inspection done and we had a quote done right before we bought the house. We honored that quote and said, hey, seller, give us the money for that quote. They did. We got a check for the company for that quote. But they, in my opinion, didn't do a thorough enough inspection and didn't find all of the mold in the house. So now they found more mold, and I'm gearing up for a battle to see whether or not they will honor their quote, given that the work scale has increased. I think they should, and I'm hoping it doesn't become a bigger deal than it needs to be. In other news, we are going to get a new HVAC unit. Now, the old HVAC unit didn't fail entirely, but an element of the unit was leaking, and there were basically 3 ways that it might get fixed, and the only one that was certain to fix it, there were 2 sort of gambles. The only one that was certain to fix it was $2,500. So we decided, this is a 15-year-old unit. Rather than investing that money, we were going to go ahead and buy a new unit. But the house is set up for a 2-stage system, aka there are 2. It might start raining. There are 2 different places that have thermostats that you can adjust the temperature for, which adds up to the cost kind of significantly, to be honest. So, that was a lot of bad news. I'm not going to linger on it here. That's not why I joined this stream. I came here to drink with some friends, drink with people, see what's going on. I got some more people coming in to join us. For those of you who didn't see before, we are going to be drinking the 1792 Foolproof Rural Inn number 5. A highly sought after pour in my mind. Phone Doctor, what's up, boys? How you doing, brother? So yeah, I am trying to figure out where I'm going to come up with the money for these repairs. Like I said, I don't really want to linger on it, but I feel like I need to talk to people about it because, this new home is going to be a real part of this channel. We have a dedicated Drink Pro space upstairs. It's a big space, too. There's going to be lots of bottles. There's going to be custom shelving that I'm going to help build for the bottles in the back. There's probably going to be wood paneling, reclaimed wood that I'm going to put on the wall. It's going to be a really cool space for the channel. So when something goes wrong with that space, it's not just my problem. It's the channel's problem. Trev says, hopefully the original owner does the right thing. Well, the original owners, they already gave us the money we asked for. That contract is signed and sealed and delivered. So hopefully the contractor does the right thing. But yeah, one of the things I always get on 1792 is sort of a light, like banana bread. But this one, and maybe this is why I like it so much. Yes, I get a lot of cinnamon. And yes, I get a hint of banana. But it's just a hint. It's mostly like super sweet. I almost get like lemon head, some sort of like lemon candy. Super sweet, super lemony. With cinnamon. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Cinnamon and pepper, obviously. But the banana is very subtle and the bread is even more subtle. And so this is super off profile in my mind for 1792. Oh, sorry, my nose is running, guys. Whew. Okay. It's because I've got my nose in this foolproof whiskey. I mean, this is labeled at 62.5% now. Obviously, it's been like this for a while, so it's definitely proofed down, but it's still toasty. Whew. You can spit out a little bit of oak on the nose as well. But yeah, bad news for the house. Unfortunately, spells bad news for the channel. I will probably be needing to sell some of my whiskey bottles in the near future to avoid taking out a loan to pay for these repairs. You know, we were prepared to, based on the inspection and the quotes we had got from other people, we were prepared to replace the HVAC in 2 years, and we were going to save up money to do so over that time. And more than one person said that should be doable. And here we are. So keep an eye out. I might be posting information on Facebook or somewhere else about some bottles that I'm trying to sell. And, you know, I probably won't be doing special deals, but it's because I need to get the most money for these bottles. But if you're willing to pay at or near secondary, hit me up, and we'll work something out, because I'd really like to not take out a loan to fix this house. Let's taste it. You know what? I fell into a classic trap. This whiskey was much, much better when it was half full. In the future, I'm going to start doing this. In the future, if a bottle is half full, it's getting on a special shelf called the shelf that I'm here to kill. Because I keep having bottles that are like a third full, a quarter full, bottles that I really like, that I really enjoy, that are delicious. And after letting them sit for a couple months, I go back and revisit them, and they've just lost a lot of the character. Because the nose on this is still beautifully sweet, got that citrus. It's just a wonderful nose. Trevor says he doesn't mind paying up for bottles for a good cause. Well, I really appreciate that, Trevor. I appreciate everything you've done for the channel and all the help you give me. It means a lot. It really does, brother. On a personal level and a professional level. So thank you, Trevor. It's not bad now, but all the sweetness is gone. I think what made this pour so intriguing to me was it's got this very nice big pepper, big oak finish, which is still there. But that sweetness in the nose, that bright, citrusy, candy, fruit sweetness on the nose, really is like Lemonhead. All that profile in the palate was previously like sweet berry. And now, I would say it's like all the sweetness is gone. It's just all citrus, which is really interesting. Yeah, it's now 9 p.m. Well, wait a minute. No, the clock on my computer is 12 minutes fast, which is very weird because usually clocks on computers sync up to some other clock in the cloud. That makes them not so inaccurate, but mine has not been doing that, so go figure. I should have changed the title of this. I should have changed the title of this to make it something to go up against Jason. I didn't even think about looking. But I could have been something like, I don't know. If you don't like the mash and drum stream, watch this. But really, 3-year anniversary, that's really cool. Happy anniversary, mash and drum. I could have also started this a little earlier and done like a mash and drum pre-stream, because usually there's somebody that does that. And I'm just looking at my subs, and I don't see anybody doing that. Which is good for me. It means I can fucking do that. That's what this is now. You have to make a clickbait title. You aren't wrong. You aren't wrong, Trev. But, you know. Buddha's here. What's going on, brother? Yeah, foolproof. I like some of the foolproof 1782 stuff. This is an unfortunate situation where this Rural Inn pick, number 5, which was one of my favorites, but I just let it sit for too long. It just got too low, and now it just lost all its sweetness. It's really sad. It is going to rain out here. I may keep drinking and keep streaming during the rain. That'd just be fun, you know? It's definitely lost some of its character. But maybe as I keep drinking it, it'll keep showing up. Phone Doctor says, hey, Kyle, I got my blind sample pack last week. Do you know when we're going to do them? I am going to post on the Patreon about that. I actually want to do a survey this weekend to get people's opinions. And the blind sample pack, if you're in my Patreon, people at, I think, $12 level and above could opt into it. That is going to be, there's going to be a poll up on, I'll probably put it up Friday night and decide based on the results Sunday. But I'm thinking it will probably be the week after next, which would put it right around, let's see, today is the 11th. So we're talking about the week of the 22nd. I'm thinking it might be a weeknight or it might be a Saturday. Those are going to be a couple of the options that people can vote for. I might actually prefer a weeknight this time because the last couple of times I've done Saturday night, and I know at least a couple of people who want to be a part of these streams couldn't make Saturday nights work. So I want to make sure we include people as best we can. Yeah, if anybody's watching this and you haven't checked out my Patreon, it's definitely worth doing, in my opinion. I mean, obviously I'm biased, but you can ask Trevor. He's at a higher level. Phone Doctor, I think he's at the $12 level. There's good stuff. Like you're not paying for nothing. I get a lot of bonus content up there. More getting released tomorrow. I'm going to be opening the Old Granddad 1961. That'll be going up probably tonight. Actually, I said tomorrow, but probably tonight. I'm going to do a little bit more of this. I'm going to let you know what. So this is another thing I've talked about in the past, but I'm going to make a point of talking about here. Different amounts of whiskey in the glass can affect how things taste and smell. So if you put small amounts in the glass, you can get one kind of note, and big amounts in the glass, you can get another kind of note. Even in a Glencairn, even standardizing things, I highly recommend when you're doing a tasting, do one of two things. 1 ounce pours or ½ ounce pours for everything. Standardize. Your palate will differentiate. It may be subtle. It may be like a 5.34% difference. 5.34. I don't know why I did that. But it might be a very small difference. But you will notice it if you look for it. So yeah, I'm thinking the sample pack tasting will be in about 2 weeks. Yeah, Trevor, tastings, bottle giveaways, cool merch, good value for Patreon, yes. Bonus content as well. I put videos up there exclusively. I do tastings and all kinds of fun things. I just gave away 2 bottles of whiskey. I'll probably be giving away another one here next month. Going to be selling some bottles. First dibs on those sales, Patreon. And I'll probably sell them a little bit below markup for the patrons too. You know, oh man, I forgot about the lights up here. So I've got lights. For some reason, the ones right above me don't work, but the other half, which I can just see out of the corner of my eye, are really going nuts. Let me see if I can't show you guys what I'm talking about. These things. This is not the only thing they do. They'll start like flashing like crazy. This is the most tepid thing they've done since I started noticing them. Of course, now they decide to be just oh wow, on the screen they just look like they're on. No, they are aggressively flashing. They're flashing so fast that you can't tell on the camera. Trev says, "Hear those locusts?" Oh yeah, we don't actually have that many of them, but they're enough that you can sure hear them. Just for anybody that's joining. Mike McAllister, didn't know you were going live. I wasn't going to go live, Mike. This was totally impromptu. Just, I had a bad day. I wanted to talk to some friends. I decided to go live. And so here we are. Yeah, drinking the old 1792 Full Proof. This is the Rural Inn number 5. And I said this before, but it bears repeating. Don't let your bottles get below half full without periodically testing them. Because there are some whiskeys, particularly ones that I like, it seems, that really degrade fast when the bottle is half full or lower. So I think from now on, when I have a bottle that I really like, I'm not going to do this with ones that I don't like, but ones that I really like, I am going to... Oh, the lights above me have just turned on. See if you guys can see that. Yeah, there they are. Those are the other half of the strand. But yeah, the bottles I really like seem to degrade. Maybe it's because of the profile I prefer. They seem to degrade rather quickly. So I will be creating a special spot in my new home for bottles that need to be drank quickly. Trev says, I always figured the higher proof stuff would hold up to having more air for longer, but I'm sure there is some kind of science to it. Oh, yes, there's definitely a science to it, Trevor. And I also will say that, yes, they hold up in terms of the proof, but there are certain flavors that dissipate more quickly. And this is all based on the chemicals. There are certain chemicals called esters that make up the different flavors in a whiskey, and some of them are evaporating more quickly than others. So there are some flavors that won't linger as long and some that will stick around for a long time. I think what I'm finding here is that the fruit notes, the sweet candy fruit notes that I smell in this pour, that I loved so much about the taste of this pour, did not linger very long. Although the more I sip this, the more I'm starting to get like a sweet cinnamon, soft sweet cinnamon vibe. Trev says he thinks finished ones start to turn around that time too. Absolutely, the finishes can get worse over time. But they're starting to become more of a sweetness on this than I had before. But even still, it's not nearly as good as I remember it being. I think the missing component is that fruity note. Thank you so much, Mike McAllister. My day is already a little bit better because I'm sitting here talking with you guys. That makes a difference. Yeah, for those who didn't turn at the beginning, I'm not going to linger on this, but I found out that we had a more extensive mold problem in the new house than initially thought. So they're going to be going through and doing extra mold remediation, which I don't know how much that's going to cost. And due to some problems with our HVAC unit, I'm going to be buying a new HVAC system, which, unless I can figure out where to get some more money from, it will require me to get a loan, which I don't want to do. So I may be selling some bottles in the near future. Patrons will get early access to those sales. So if you're not a patron, please consider joining. Brian Toner says, Stachi. Stachi? What is that? What is Stachi? Is that a name? I should know what Stachi is, but I have no idea. When I look up Stachi, I found something that's a synthetic vitamin D analog prescribed to patients undergoing chronic renal dialysis. I feel like that's not what he was trying to reference. Brian, if you were trying to reference this very obscure analog that can help your liver, I am impressed by your oddity of a reference. But I assume there's something else that I don't get. Oh, man. Well, I'm glad people are joining in. The light over here is the sun setting, but the sun has basically set. Right now, we're relying almost entirely on this for light, which is actually a citronella oil candle. Brian, there it is. Oh, here we go. Now I got to read Brian's trying to make me read goddamn Latin. Stachybotrys chartarum. Sounds like a Harry Potter spell or something. Stachybotrys chartarum. I think that's pretty close. Stachybotrys chartarum. Yeah, black mold. Yeah, there's definitely some of that in this fucking house, and we've got people out there doing everything they can to get it cleaned up. It's a mess. It's awful. It's under my kitchen. God, I'll tell you what though, although I am disappointed by the taste, Mike McAllister's brain crashed trying to pronounce it. Mine clearly did too, live on camera. Um, as much as this foolproof Berlin 5 still smells. I mean, it has lost something on the palate for sure, but the taste on it is getting better. But the nose is freaking amazing. It's freaking amazing. It is so good. Brian says they can follow the New York protocol or the EPA protocol for remediation. Brian, if you could send me more information about that, I'm going to put my email in the chat if you don't already have it. Brian, please send me more information about that because I want to read more up about the remediation process for the black mold. To be frank, I haven't been happy with the people who have been completing this task. And so I want to get a second opinion on whether they remediated the mold properly, but I also would like to know what the hell I'm talking about. So I'm not just relying on random experts that I don't know and don't trust. So Brian, I really appreciate you bringing this up. Actually, please send me an email with any kind of information you've got on black mold or these different protocols. But as Brian said, I also agree. Enough about that. We're here to drink, so we're drinking. I may have to grab another bottle, although I kind of just want to keep sipping on this bottle because this might be a good exercise in flavor drift, which something that a lot of channels have talked about, the Whiskey Tribe being one of them, talking about flavor drift in the context of a bottle being open for a long time. Or they've talked about it in that context, but they've also talked about it in the context of like you make a brand like Jameson, right? If you drink a Jameson from the 1980s and Jameson from today, they're going to taste different. And that's because the flavor that makes up Jameson has drifted over time. Shout out to my Redbreast review, Middleton Distillery. Redbreast 27, though, that's a hell of a thing. That's another one I might have to sell to be able to afford this fixture. Anyway, so there are basically three different ways in my mind that flavors can change in a whiskey. You can have changes between early and later in the distillery's history, which is flavor drift in the sense of like a profile for a main blended product, Jameson. You can have flavor drift in the sense of a whiskey changing how it tastes based on the evaporation of staying in the bottle for a long time, which is what's happening with this foolproof. And you can have flavor drift, which is a third kind, which is what I'm about to be experimenting with, and I kind of already started. It's actually flavor drift based on your own perception and your own tongue. It's where you'll perceive the flavor to change based on continuing to drink. And some of that is becoming drunker, but some of that is also becoming used to certain notes in the profile. So you become, kind of comforted by or numbed to oakiness, high proofedness. That's why you typically end a tasting with a high proof whiskey because you've tried lower, medium, and you're on high proof whiskey because it shock your system. And that's what will happen when you taste something like I just did, 62.5% alcohol whiskey, the first taste in a life. But I'm going to keep drinking this because I got a bunch of things we can talk about. But also, I can give tasting notes, but it's an impromptu live. I'm going to go in different directions. I'm going to look like a floating head when it gets too dark out here. Akeem the Dream, what's going on, brother? I am drinking the 1792 Full Proof. This is the Rural Inn number 5 pick. One of the things I've been talking about is the fact that it's gotten so low and it's been open so long that the flavor has definitely drifted and become less fruity. Still a little sweet, but less sweet. The oak is overpowering now, unfortunately, for me. But, my first pour of this, I got none of the sweetness, just nothing. It was just all oak and cinnamon. The smell is pretty consistently good. I love the smell. It's always got this super nice lemon candy, cinnamon, hint of oak, hint of banana, but unlike most 1792 products for me anyway, it doesn't have the banana bread. It's just got a hint of banana, none of the bread. But my initial taste, I got no sweetness. And on this taste, I'm getting a lot more sweetness. The sweetness is really starting to show up. I'm getting a lot more of the citrus. It's early, sweet. Mid-palate, kind of bitter in a way I don't love. But it starts off very citrus and very sweet. No, it starts off sweet. It goes like caramel. No, hold on. Let me take another drink. I got distracted by the finish and by Akeem telling me about his take on Redbreast 27. Yeah, Redbreast 27 is a very fickle beast. I definitely think it's worth the full 500. I agree with Akeem on that. But the Redbreast 27 is weird because it's so circumstantially good or bad. It's never bad, but it's so circumstantially delicious. And in my video, I compare it to like a hypercar, one of these like multi-million-dollar sports cars. And I stand by that because there are some situations where the Redbreast 27 is amazing, and there are some where it's good, and there are some where it's just okay. And to have that kind of subtlety and nuance and development and to require the perfect conditions to be the best whiskey ever, which I think it can be, that's reminiscent of a sports car, a hypercar that requires such carefully nuanced considerations and track conditions and whatever to operate its full potential. If you take one of those on the road, it's going to get fucked up. I think that's kind of what's going on here. Hold on, Yolanda's poking her head out. What's up, baby?
Why did you recording a demo by herself not on the phone?
She's okay. I haven't been on for 30 minutes. She hasn't been whining for 30 minutes. Well, I'm sorry. She's okay. You can bring her out here if you want.
Does she need to go potty?
I don't know.
Is it possible that you missed dinner?
No.
What time is it?
I'll feed her in a minute. Yolanda's mad. That's fine. Trevor needs to taste Nate's bottle of Redbreast 27. You think it's in my wheelhouse, Kyle? You know my palate well. No, I don't. I don't think it's in your wheelhouse. I gotta be honest, Trevor. Yeah, this is lovely. This is getting better and better. And I don't know if that just means I'm getting drunker, which I don't think it means, but I guess it could be breathing more in the glass, and that would really stand up, except for the fact that I just poured this not that long ago. Although I am clearly losing track of time. I didn't know I'd been on the stream for 33 minutes. But hey, I'm glad people are joining in. Yeah, and it's kind of an interesting open question. Like, is the reason it's better I'm less sensitive to flavors? Is it because it's opening up the glass? Hard to say. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but the Old Forester, I just got the email today, is doing another edition of their whatever 117 series. I think it's called the 117 series. I honestly can't keep track of all these different things that are coming out. Yeah, I get a little bit brighter when I use my other email application to try to find information about stuff that was sent to me. But, yeah, fuck it. Yeah, Trev says you get used to the flavors probably. I think that's probably true. But I got information today about an Old Forester 117 release. I was talking with Trevor last night, I think, about a new Maker's Mark release. And I wonder how people felt or what they thought about some of the new releases that are coming out. There are a lot of what I would consider limited edition or special edition or new releases. A lot of these distilleries are really trying to feed that. There are a lot of distilleries right now are trying to feed that instinct or that urge to buy special limited products. And I have mixed feelings about that, to be honest. I mean, I think the market's going to bear what the market's going to bear. If people want that product, if there's a demand for it, if you build it, they will come. That's kind of what's happening. Yeah, like Trevor says, now they can also just basically be a way to charge top dollar for just okay whiskey. But it kind of depends on what you do with it. One of the things that I'm really keen on right now, I think is a big deal, is big distilleries experimenting with finished products. And the reason isn't necessarily because I love finished products, but it's because taking a product that already exists, that you know is good, and then finishing it is a way that you can, in a relatively short period of time, ramp up production of good and unique whiskeys. You can pick a handful of barrels, 50 barrels that you know are good. They would be destined for an expensive, rare lineup. You could finish them and sell them for more and make them even rarer and more exclusive. But for me, that's not all bad because you're creating a new, unique profile. And whiskey nerds love unique, interesting profiles. So it's not a bad way to go. Mike McAllister says, when you cannot keep up with your current products, then I wish that was a focus, but that's just my thoughts. Very good point, Mike McAllister. There are a lot of people, especially Buffalo Trace, who just can't keep up with their standard products. I think Maker's Mark probably fits less in that category, and they're doing a lot of limited stuff. Brown-Forman definitely can't keep up with their products with Old Forester, Birthday Bourbon, and the President's Select, but a lot of their other stuff they've kept up with okay. And the initial release of 1920 was hard, but after that it became easier for people. Yeah, Trevor referenced the Baccarat from Woodford, where they put a crystal decanter and they aged it in cognac and charged $2,500. Yeah, and the funny thing is, over $1,000 of those dollars, I think maybe closer to $2,000 of those dollars, Trevor, were for that crystal decanter. That is very expensive, fine crystal. So a big portion of the money was because of the crystal decanters. But I've heard that it wasn't worth it in the bottle. I think Bourbon Baller might have referenced that. McAllister referenced Buffalo Trace. That was his thought. Yeah, and the thing with Buffalo Trace is, and I thought about this, they have done some special releases that seem very tatery. And by that I mean they're really targeting people who want rare releases instead of good whiskey. They did that with, I'm going to move this close. They did that with the Weller single barrel, the Weller full proof. I think both of those were, tater driven. Blanton's Gold becoming a U.S. release as well as an international release. I think that was tater driven. I think starting to do Stag Junior picks is that, and for that matter, E.H. Taylor picks. Those are both tater driven. But the thing of it is, all of those different things that I've listed, it's not clear that those would have actually contributed to the standard Buffalo Trace issued product. Trevor says Colonel Taylor's whiskey soaked in his underwear and sold for $2,000 on secondary. Yeah, pretty much. And that the really funny one is the most recent E.H. Taylor release. It's just called Warehouse C. Fucking all of the E.H. Taylor is sourced from Warehouse C. At least when there was a tornado, you could give some kind of narrative behind why you're just picking Warehouse C. Warehouse C is just where Taylor is from, typically. Not always, but typically. So, that's not at all special. You didn't make a special mash. You didn't use special oak. It doesn't even have a special narrative. It's not even a blend of special whiskeys. It's just the regular-ass warehouse that you pick all your Taylor from. That kind of stuff does bother me. But I'm also a little sympathetic to the idea that Buffalo Trace cannot keep up with the amount of demand for Buffalo Trace. Matter of fact, Buffalo Trace has built some big rick houses, or they are in production, I can't recall, but Buffalo Trace is really trying to ramp up production because they recognize they can't keep up with their demand. But the products that are going into things like Stag Junior, E.H. Taylor, and Weller literally can't, for one reason or another, be Buffalo Trace. They're either too old, they're too oaky, they're too bitter, or they're wheated mash bills. So, although I really want to give Buffalo Trace a lot of shit for tatering or fanning the tater fire, It's hard for me to, because the product they really want, that the average Joe really wants, the Buffalo Trace, standard ass Buffalo Trace, that's the product the average Joe really wants. They can't make enough of that. They really can't. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it, my man. Trev says, I can't believe 1792 didn't do a warehouse collapse release. They might still yet. There's still time. There's still time, Trev. Don't count them out. Like McAllister, BT is the master of marketing. While I don't like it, I see why they're doing it. Yeah. I hate to say it, but I agree. I think you're right. Yes, I am, Akeem. I'm still doing a stream tomorrow. This is just an impromptu little chat with my friends. We just drank it tonight. But a lot of people are doing, these kind of, a lot of people are making these kinds of products. They're doing these kinds of things where limited releases are coming out. Like I mentioned earlier, 117 from Old Forester. I think. All right, good luck, Akeem. I think a lot of Maker's Mark's another one. A lot of these companies are just catering hard, but some of them, like Maker's Mark, I think they're recognizing the desire for catery products, and that they're maybe taking some experiments they were already doing and tatering them up a bit. I'm going to make sure that Yolanda hasn't fed the dog. I should have fed the dog before, which is part of why she was mad at me. So I'm going to make sure that the dog still needs food, and then I will go get her food. And you all can watch me feed the dog. And I'll talk you through the process. I'm sure that's exciting stuff. Well, I'll probably grab another bottle so that we can mix it up and move to the next tasting in this impromptu live stream. But yeah, it is. It's tricky. I want to look at the growth in whiskey tube and the whiskey content that exists today and say, oh, this is actually a good thing. This is expanding the amount of whiskey available to the average consumer. And to some extent, I believe that. I think that most people are not or were not buying these $100 super rare bottles. So it didn't make sense for these companies to prioritize those. However, if we're watering down those bottles to improve the products around the $50 range, I don't necessarily agree with that either, because those are different markets. The person paying $100, $150 for his bottle of whiskey doesn't want something that's watered down. Doesn't want something that's less than it should be. So where do you do the balance? Okay, wet food. It stinks terribly. It smells like fish. Half of a fourth of a cup. Now remember, this dog is 15 years old and has no teeth. So I can't just give her that dry food. So we give her wet food. Reach out to me, Blue. We can do a product sponsorship. Somebody left. Somebody couldn't take this. But don't worry. Right after I'm done mixing this up for the dog, I'm going to grab another interesting bottle, and we will continue this tasting. But yeah, I got mixed feelings about people making more specialty products. I think if you're able to make more specialty products while continuing to make your baseline product, I don't have a problem with it. So, to me, that screams Maker's Mark. Maker's Mark is the example of that. Yes, they have a couple of unique releases, but they have not really struggled to issue those releases in the last couple of years. All right, what should we grab? You know what I'm going to do? I got one. I'm going to do this. They haven't really struggled to issue those releases in the last couple of years, so to me, that's a good sign. and makes me think that we're doing the right thing. Oh, I gotta shut this door. Check out those lights. Those look cool on camera. Yeah. Oh, man. This is the kind of content I like when people tune in for. You know, this is unscripted, a little bit chaotic, but it's fun. It's fun. My phone is shattered, too. I don't know if you guys can see that. Yeah, cracked it good. Things are all turning up Kyle's way right now. Buddha says, I've been enjoying Makers 101. Yeah, Makers 101, solid product. I mean, if you like Makers, Makers 101 is just Makers, but better, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. So that pour kept getting better and better. Isaac said, dude, now it's your phone. Yeah, man. I don't know when you tuned in, Isaac, but I was just telling people about the fact that my house has a lot more mold than we initially thought, and the HVAC unit needs to be replaced. So I'll be selling some whiskey bottles soon to try to make up the cost. First dibs go to members of my Patreon. But yeah. Anyway, when that light gets nice and yellow, it's kind of fun. It flickers from time to time and doesn't get as woo. I opened it up too much and got pretty aggressive. Isaac might be able to help me. Let's talk about that after the stream, brother. So this is Booker's. It's hard to see on this stream. This is 2015-06, no secret, 64.05% alcohol. It's hard to read in the night light. 6 years, 8 months, 7 days, 121 or 64.05%. I mentioned that. Now, this bottle was almost entirely killed at a tasting event where I brought it, and people were very thankful that I brought it, and I just thought it was an okay bottle, so I was really surprised people were all about it like that. But as it's been opening up, and now it's almost gone, I really think it's gotten better. This has just become a beautiful whiskey. It's interestingly, it reminds me more of that 1792 than I anticipated. And it's hard to say why, because you think of those as very different pours. You think of the Bookers as peanutty, and you think of the 1792 as banana bready. But honestly, right now, at least, this Booker's is very citrusy. It's very sweet. It's very cinnamon. And those are all the notes I was getting on the 1792. Mike says, I actually got to design our newest batch coming next month for our bourbon group. I will have to get you to try it. Yeah, man, I'd love to do that, Mike. Let's find a way to make that happen. And if it's something I can get a bottle of, I might do a full review or something. Need to work that out, those details. Cheers, brother. Also trying to avoid the citronella a little bit, but I need it. I need to keep the bugs away.
Can you put her on the ground?
Yes.
Remember how I asked how she needed to go potty?
Did she go?
She peed on the carpet as soon as they took her upstairs.
I'm sorry. I'll put her on the ground. Now I'm really going to be in trouble. The dog peed on the carpet because she's a bad girl. She's a bad girl. So we're going to put her down, and I'll keep an eye. She never really wanders off the other direction. She might wander off this direction, but I'll keep an eye on her. Make sure nothing stupid happens. So might be a little dark and a little less whiskey than I prefer in my normal setting, but we'll keep talking. We'll keep chatting. Phone light. Tom keeping track of her. Yeah, Isaac says she's geriatric. There's no good girl left. Yeah, unfortunately, that's true. She's just kind of a bitch. And you're right, it's not really by choice. It's just kind of like that's what happens to old dogs. Oh, this is the one that Mike McAllister said. It's our cigar batch, 5.5 year, 51% rye. Finished 3 months in cognac, 2 months in argument. I am pumped. That sounds amazing. I love I love Armagnac finish in particular. That's one of my faves. I've never had one that was both cognac and Armagnac finish. 51% rye, 5.5 year, 3 months finish, 2 months finish. I'd love that. That sounds fantastic. All right, look at this bad girl. She's just a little bundle of trouble. Keep an eye on her. Hopefully she doesn't do anything too stupid. But you never know. You never know. It's kind of fun. Gives you a little effect. So the good thing about going back to that, when you go back to that that Booker's after drinking already foolproof 1792, it really really stands out how how much getting used to the proof point can make a difference. Because for me, that 1792 seemed really high proof. It was the first thing I tasted this session. But moving from it to this Booker's, it really just felt like a natural progression. And didn't seem to be an increase in proof at all. I know it was an increase of like maybe 2%, but it just seemed so similar and so natural. Travis going to have a dry night, but he poured some Old 55. He poured the Drink Pro pick to drink with you, buddy. That's right. I really should do some more whiskey picks, but haven't done it. Mike says, thanks. Got to get you some samples. Haven't been home in 4 weeks. That's all right, man. But when you get those samples, I'd love to taste them and try them. Yeah, I think, honestly, part of the reason I haven't been pushing harder for picks is because at this point, like, everybody and their brother with a whiskey channel is doing picks. And here's my problem with that. My problem with that is all these whiskey companies are setting out specific barrels for you to pick from. And that's great. That's fine. But they've tasted these barrels. They know what they taste like. And so the idea that you're getting something like a really unique one-off is often not the case. Now, if you go with smaller distilleries, you go with people that are doing smaller batches, then you might actually get some really cool stuff. And that's the irony for me here, is that the irony is the people that, the picks that people really want your Four Roses, your Buffalo Traces, those are so heavily curated that they know exactly what they're putting into those programs, and it's not going to be the kind of stuff they're putting in the limited edition 2020 Four Roses, for example, or the George T. Stagg 2019 or 2020, for example. Those bottles have already been curated, and they have different tasting bottles that have gone to their private barrelings, what they would call single barrel programs. And again, that's not to say they're bad. You know, I was lucky enough to go on a E.H. Taylor pick. And all of the barrels in that pick were off profile. They were the wrong mash bill. They were all put in that program based on the profile. They met the E.H. Taylor profile, but they didn't fit any other brand label, so they went single barrel select, which is really cool. It was a really cool experience. But that's a pick that I was only able to do because I was with a massive liquor store. As an individual, I couldn't pull those strings. I couldn't make those picks. Those kind of picks are 1 in a million, unless you know somebody. But you go pick something from Starlight, for example, which is a company that I would seriously consider doing a pickup for myself because I really like Starlight. I like what they're doing. A lot of Bourbon Tube, Whiskey Tube has started doing Starlight picks, which is fine. But Starlight is doing enough cool stuff that I think I could get a fun barrel from them. If I try 4 or 5 of their barrels, I bet I could find one that's really special. Maybe not like 10 times better than their standard release, but unique. And unique is the word of the day. Because I've had a couple store picks of Starlight that were unique and unbelievable. One in particular that always stands out to me, Fine and Table 2020 holiday pick, tasted straight up like gingerbread. Mike McAllister, gotta brag, way off the subject, my daughter got a spot on softball national team, and they are flying her to Texas shortly to offer her a scholarship to a D1 school. I'm a proud papa. Mike McAllister, my brother. Cheers to your daughter and her budding, growing softball career. I hope she crushes it wherever she ends up. And maybe she'll get a couple offers. That'd be the ideal. But hell, if she gets a good offer in Texas, cheers to her. If she gets a good offer anywhere, cheers to her. So congrats, Mike, to being a proud papa. Man, that's some good whiskey to cheers, too. Trev says I got a bottle of Starlight pick and it's so good. Yeah, I mean, some of those Starlight picks are amazing. They're amazing. I think the dog is pretty sick of me. She's been with Mama all day. And Mom's a lot nicer to her than I am. I won't put up with her bullshit. Oh, man. Guys, I am so close to 1,000 subscribers. I really hope that if you're watching this, you've already done this. I know you have. You've already shared with your friends my YouTube channel. You've gotten people to subscribe to it. But, you know, I need like 60 plus subscribers. I need 60 more. That's not a crazy number. That's very doable. That's like one big push by the Mash and Drum or by My Bourbon Journey or one of these channels. They just got to push hard one time, and I could probably get 60 subs. So we got to make it happen. And you know, like I said, I could kiss a bunch of ass and get those guys to, you know, shout me out a bunch. I don't really want to do that. That's not my style. I like those guys. Like I said, I like them fine, but I'm trying to build an organic audience. I want people to join this because they like to hear what I have to say about whiskey. They like to hear what I have to say about life, not because they like Whiskey Tube X and they want to watch some other Whiskey Tuber do the same or something similar. Mike McCall says you deserve to be at 1K for sure. I mean, I appreciate that. I agree. But, you know, I recognize that a lot of what gets people to 1,000 or more is gamesmanship. I mean, if you think about whiskey tubers, and there's a lot of them that are right around 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, I would bet a lot of money that those people were doing it by connecting with the Bourbon Junkies, connecting with Mash and Drum, connecting with the Whiskey Tribe, connecting with pick a channel. People attach to a bigger channel, and they build their channel that way. And like I said, I like all those guys. But I made a conscious decision to not build my channel that way. I wanted to build it from organic subscribers, organic viewership, and let the algorithm attach me to other channels. And, you know, that might not be the quickest way to yes, but I've got a day job. This is a hobby. And this is how I want to deal with my hobby. I want to put myself on the stage, and I don't really want to spend a lot of time taking photos afterwards. I guess that's the metaphor. That's the metaphor. I like to perform, but I'm not sure how much I like the schmoozing aspect. I schmooze too much in my day-to-day job, you know? Yeah, Mike McAllister. Most times they start at 1K. Nothing wrong with that, but it's not for everyone. Absolutely. Yes. You build those connections, then you start a channel, then you get to 1K very quickly. And matter of fact, that's kind of what ADHD did. Now, the reason that ADHD is different in my mind is because he became the Bardstown Whiskey Taster of the Year. So he started and grew a small following basically by attaching to the Bourbon Junkies. But he grew a much bigger following because of his palate and because of his presentations. And so the connection with the Bourbon Junkies got him more clout in that competition, but it wasn't all a clout competition. There was a tasting component. There was a judging component. So nothing but respect for his growth pattern. But there's a lot of people that have languished at around 1,000, 1,500. And part of that is because they haven't pushed the right content. Yeah, Mike McAllister's in the extreme personality. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, Trevor says you're doing it the hard way, but he'll have more loyal fans. Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel. Is, I want people to connect with the channel, not because somebody else told them to, but because they care about what I'm doing. And you're right, Trevor. It is the hard way. But I'm okay with it. I like climbing hills. Cheers. That was too much. I forgot how much was in that glass. Oh. I did not account for how much whiskey was in that glass. Oh. Woo. That's a lot of 64%. That's a lot of 64% whiskey. Oh. And I'm glad that candle didn't get too close to me, or I would have caught on fire. Oh. Wow. Wowzers in my trousers. How do I? Okay. Let's have a little bit more of that. Yeah, Trevor says that ADHD is one that will answer people in the chat, and that's nice. Most chats aren't worth talking to. Totally agree, and that is one of the reasons that I like I like our chat. Isaac says, opening that like a gentleman. You're goddamn right, Isaac. I'm opening my whiskey. I couldn't get it with my fingertips. It was too tight of a cork. I mean, you gotta have those tight corks, but sometimes it hinders. It's like Knob Creek is always like that. Every time I buy Knob Creek, I always leave the cork. So this is what I've done here. You can see I've left a little bit of cork out so I can get a grip around it. I can get around it with my fingertips. I always do that with Knob Creek because you just can't get those fuckers open. They have such a tight seal that if you push it down all the way to the wax, you're not getting that shit open. Oh, man. It's a good jaw workout. Just don't pay for a side. Yeah, I better work out my left side some more. Trevor says Trevor killing me, brother. The goddamn wax on Knob Creek is terrible. I couldn't agree more. The Knob Creek wax is so unhelpful. It's so difficult to work with. It's just awful. This dog is gonna fall out of my lap if she keeps doing this. You gotta stop. You gotta chill. Just sit there. Just sit there. Hey. I think everything we eat should be that hard. We have to salivate all over the food first like dogs on bones. I love you, Isaac. You have such interesting opinions about things. I remember having a long conversation with Isaac about using resistance training on your jaw to counteract sleep apnea, to work that soft palate. And because of that, I ended up buying a bunch of bubble gum. What do you think? No? Okay. I don't know why. I ended up buying a bunch of bubble gum, like a 5-pound bag of bubble gum. What are you doing? What's going on? Is it the smoke? Okay. I ended up buying a 5-pound bag of bubble gum and chewing it like one piece a day for, well, it quickly became 2 or 3 pieces a day, but it was all sugar gum, and I was doing it to try to strengthen my jaw, my soft palate, and it didn't make any difference in my sleep apnea, but it made a really negative difference in my teeth. So if you're going to do that kind of training, use sugarless gum. That's my advice. All right, let's go back to this. I've been talking too much about nonsense. Let's go back to this No Secret. 2015-06. Last year they did 6 batches instead of 4 batches of Bookers. So much citrus on this. Holy crap. I'm going to go back to the 1792 foolproof in a second because I feel like this is... I'm really surprised how much citrus there is on this No Secret, because citrus is not something that you typically expect from Bookers. Bookers is usually oaky or nutty or both. This thing is just tons of cinnamon, orange, lemon, clove. I mean, it's a really solid pour. It's a really solid pour. But there's just no peanutiness in this, which is, like, to me, a classic, like a prototypical Booker's note is peanut. And this just doesn't have any peanut in it at all. Isaac is putting all kinds of interesting notes in the chat. So, yeah, Isaac, I would love to spend years developing my soft palate, but I can just use machines now, bro. Why would I need to really breathe? Why would I need to really breathe when I can use machines to help me breathe? Oh, Isaac dropping questions now. I love to see it. Isaac's question: y'all have a favorite booze? I'm very new here. Yes, Isaac has just recently joined the Patreon. I appreciate it, my brother. Thank you so much. Nate says, or Trevor says, Nate isn't in here. Fucking Nate, what is he doing? Trevor says, this isn't a Patreon live stream where I would tell you what I always tell my wife, what gets rid of headaches. Isaac says, why isn't everyone vain to the point of masochism like me? Don't know, man. But I like the idea that you're going to be, like, punishing your jaw for 10 years to strengthen the line. I just grew a beard. That's what I did to strengthen the line. But yeah, favorite booze. That's a great question. I mean, the Redbreast 27 is definitely up there for the most complex and unique and interesting whiskeys. It may even be called the quote-unquote best whiskey. But it's really hard for me to venture away from Pepsi on Nickel 15 year. I just did a tasting event last week where I got to drink a whole bunch of it, and it was wonderful. I also really like the 2019 George T. Stagg, and so many Stagg drinkers shit on that whiskey, and I can't for the life of me figure out why. The best guess I've got is the George T. Stagg 2019 is not nearly as high proof as the rest of them. It's not nearly as oaky as the rest of them. It's got tons of cherry, tons of other fruit flavors. It's much more subtle and nuanced, and those motherfuckers don't want subtle and nuanced. They want dry, astringent, oak, hot. I don't want that. If that's what George T. Stagg is supposed to be, keep it. Fucking keep it. I don't want that. 2019 wasn't that. It was fantastic. It was one of the highest rated whiskeys by reviewers who weren't Stagg Junior heads or Stagg heads, by just regular ass reviewers. They love the 2019. But in the secondary market, it commands a lower cost because people don't give a shit. Trevor says, GTS 19 wins any blind I put it in. The only thing it beat was a Pappy 15 and a Michter's 20. Yeah. I mean, that's, we're talking about a bottle that sells for $2,000 on the secondary market and a bottle that's $700 retail that are beating this GTS 2019, which you can get for $700 secondary. So the only thing that's beating those two are bottles that are meaningfully above that price point on secondary. GTS 2019, you can get that for $700 secondary. I got one for $600 secondary. For this event, I didn't buy it for myself. Yeah, you know what? That's good and all, but I got to revert back here. I got to revert back to the full proof. 1792 full proof, roll in number 5. booch. Again, probably too much whiskey. Okay. I'm going to take one more pour of this because I want to check it out after spending a couple of pours with that high proofer, that Booker's. We're going to go back to the full proof. Whew. Trevor says he just doesn't like the fruity stuff. I don't mind getting fruit notes in whiskey, but it's not flavored whiskey or liquor. Definitely fair. I really like a fruity note in my whiskey, to the point probably more so than Trevor. An easy example of that is I really like the Angel's Envy Rye, which is very fruit forward from the finish of the rum. And I really like the Bardstown Orange Curacao finish, which is very fruit forward. And that's a really solid pour. It's very sweet, but it's not too syrupy. I think that's the big mark. Is like you don't want something that's syrupy. Isaac said, "You guys are great. I thought there would be this huge argument about how hard it is to choose favorites, and then you literally name them so fast my head spins." Yeah, I mean, a lot of people want to make it like a bigger argument than it is. Dude, I've had so many rare whiskeys, and I'm not trying to brag. I'm just saying, like, I have drank multiple, like, unicorn whiskeys for people. I've drank everything from the Pappy Van Winkle series. I've had multiple old whiskeys. I had a 1969 Chessman, Old Crow Chessman, which is one of the most sought-after whiskeys. I had this 1961 Old Grandad, which is a hugely sought-after whiskey. I've just drank some of the best whiskeys on the market, and I'm telling you, the one that I named, the George Seaside 2019, to me personally, based on my palate, it holds up with all of them. And that's what you got to remember: is it's about your palate. It's about what notes you like. So if you buy a whiskey, taste it, write down what you taste, and write down what you like and what you don't like. So does it taste too alcoholic? Write that down. Write down it tastes like alcohol. You don't like that. Does it taste really fruity? Write down fruity. You like it. You don't like it. Write down oaky. You like it. You don't like it. Write this shit down. Figure out what your profile is. And I'm telling you what, if you come to me, you call me, you email me, come talk to me. And if you give me 4 or 5 of those notes, I can find a whiskey that you'll really like. It's really about that. It's that narrowing down process. Trevor says, do you consider the Dickel vitamin note a fruit? That is a great question, Trevor. For those of you who don't know, Dickel, the Tennessee whiskey, sorry, making sure Oreo's not doing anything stupid. The Tennessee whiskey Dickel is definitely controversial. It has a real Flintstone vitamin quality, but there's a ton of fruit behind it as well. So if you can get over that minerality, the fruitiness can be beautiful. And I have really mixed feelings about it because I love the fruitiness. I don't really care for the minerality, but I don't hate it. So Old Carter Batch 6 bourbon, that was a very fruit-forward version of Dickel. It just tastes like straight-up oranges, and I really liked it. I've had several other Dickel batches that were more mineral-forward, and I liked some of them. I didn't like others. It's really hit or miss with that. So I don't consider the vitamin note a fruit, Trevor, but I do think there are fruit notes that accompany the vitamin note. Trevor says, Isaac, I first got into whiskey. I thought, why pay over $50? Whiskey is nothing worth over that. And the more you drink it, the more you appreciate it. And GTS and stuff is out of this world. Oh, no. He appreciated GTE and other. I should be able to read more than I do for being an attorney. There's big quality difference between lower dollar bottles and the great stuff put together like GTS, William Reed Weller, W20. Definitely agree with that take, Trevor. And I will also say that I think those distinctions are really hard to pick out when you first get into whiskey. In part, we'll deal with that in a second. In part because those discernment between $50 bottle, $100 bottle, $150 bottle, $200 bottle, that requires you to have a really refined palate and have a good understanding of what you want in a whiskey and what makes a good whiskey. And I would say if you spend a lot of time with a lot of different whiskeys, that's the key. try as many different whiskeys as you can. If you try 50 whiskeys, and it doesn't matter the price point. If you try 50 whiskeys and all of them are under $30, I would be willing to bet that you'll find a favorite that's right at that $30 price point. And you'll be able to pick out which ones are cheaper and which ones are more expensive. What is a $10 whiskey? What's a $20 whiskey? What's a $30 whiskey? And that's because those differences over time become more and more prominent in your palate. They become more and more notable. I'm at the point right now where I can tell you which distillery a whiskey's from pretty accurately just by smelling it and tasting it. And that comes from experience. It all comes from experience. So, giving a George T. Stagger or William Lure Weller to somebody who's never had a bunch of whiskeys, they'll be like, yeah, that's really good. That's really smooth. But they won't have a reference point for how good it is. That's something I've really come to appreciate with coffee, to be honest. I think a lot of people who aren't really experienced with coffee will take a sip of very rare, very delicious coffee and be like, oh, yeah, that's really good. But they won't be able to tell you, like, oh, it's got so much more nuance. It's got all of these interesting notes. It's got citrus. It's got jasmine. It's got lilacs. It's got brown sugar, cane sugar, honey, all of these things. That nuance is a function of your experience. Matter of fact, I'll tell you right now, I've got in the future, I'm going to be doing a really fun video, maybe tomorrow, but I might film it tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. A really fun video about a new coffee that I buy. I don't know much about it, so I got to do some research on it, but it was expensive as hell. So, at least for me, I don't usually buy very expensive coffees. I buy more expensive whiskey than coffee, but that video is coming. It'll be a Patreon exclusive, so consider joining the Patreon if you haven't already. Patreon.com, patreon.com/thedrinkpro. Let's take a sip of this full proof. So, bouncing back and forth between the full proof and the Bookers, I can definitively say that my initial tasting note is correct. And by that I mean the citrus remains, the sweetness has left, the fruitiness has left. And so, although the more you drink this full proof 1792, it's a good pour. The more you drink it, the better it gets. What made it special, that sweet fruitiness, it's left by this point in the pour. That's how much I have left in this bottle. And that special note has left the building. It's kind of unfortunate. It's kind of sad. I think it was a really solid bottle. Mike McAllister says, at first, I think in your first 50 or so, you should stay under $80. Totally agree. I think I might even take it a step further than McAllister here. I may say your first 50 pour should be under $50. Yolanda says, please check your phone. Checking my phone. All right. I'll have to think about how I'm going to answer that. Trevor says try different finished whiskeys in different ages. The Isaac says my wife does that too. Yeah, I think trying different finishes, different ages. You got to try different kinds of whiskey as well. Bourbon versus American versus rye versus Irish versus Scotch versus Indian versus Japanese versus... there's others, but they're escaping right now. It's just... you need to get a plethora of experiences at one price point to really understand what the price point is. I got to respond to this text. Which is great content for the stream. This is what you guys came for, is to watch me text. I'm sure it is. Mike McAllister says, Isaac, what state are you in? Isaac lives real fucking close to me. Isaac is here in Indiana. Trevor says, Isaac, the best way is to befriend a whiskey lover and try all their stuff. Huh, I wonder if he knows any whiskey lovers. Oh, man. Okay. Trevor says, Kyle and Nate have helped me get into whiskey and try a ton of stuff I would never have been able to. That's what is great about whiskey. Totally agree. I don't care if you... I'll tell you guys a story. I mean, some of you will know this, some of you won't. There's a guy in a whiskey group that I know named Rick. Rick is... I believe he's a janitor at a school. And he does not very frequently spend more than $50. Like, if he spent $50 on a whiskey, it would be a very special whiskey. That's at least my impression. He might, I mean, I might be wrong about that, but given the many video calls I have with him and the many tastings I have with him, I get the impression that he doesn't have a lot of money to spend on whiskey. And that's okay. You don't have to have a lot of money to spend on whiskey, but he loves it. And he likes the flavors. He likes the nuance. That's right, Trevor Mellicorn, Rick. He really enjoys whiskey, and he can really pick notes out if you give him the chance. I sent him a very generous flight of whiskey, and part of the reason I did was because I like the guy, good dude. I wanted to drink some good whiskey. And this guy sent me back a flight of really cool local whiskeys that I'll never be able to try otherwise. And I don't know what the price point on any of those whiskeys is, and honestly, I don't care. He sent me a pack of whiskeys that were unique, that were careful. There was love in that mailing. And there was love in my mailing. I mailed him stuff I didn't think he would be able to try otherwise. That's what the whiskey community is about. It's loving each other and being kind to each other and drinking good whiskey. Isaac, we got to get you over here. I try to get, we got to get you over here, Isaac, to have you try some whiskeys. I may have to go. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, Isaac, we got to get you over here. Or, better yet, I'll hire you on to help me with some of the renovations of the move or something. I got a lot of shit I got to get done, so I may hire you on to get some of that done. I'll pay you in whiskey. How's that? How's that sound? Oh, man. Isaac says, well, if I stay at my current job, I'll have 3 months paternity leave in January. So I'll have the ability to drink for show. Well, if you got 3 months paternity leave in January, Isaac, then you can definitely join in and you can come check out the new house. At the very least, come check out the new house when you're on paternity leave. I mean, this fucking 1792. This is really something unique. Because the more I drink it, the more I like it. Even when company doesn't make the whiskey better. Totally agree, Trev. Back to back with the Booker's. That Booker's is much better. The No Secret Booker's really stands out. It's so different than your standard Booker's. There's lots of sweet. I get like honey, lemon, cinnamon. And a lot of those notes show up on the nose of the 1792 full proof store pick that I've got from Berlin, the number 5. But they're not as prominent in the palate. They're really lacking. They're really lacking on the palate. Mike McAllister. It's not about the whiskey. It's about the enjoyment of each other's company. I enjoy a $20 bottle with some friends. Totally agree. Whiskey is a conduit for delicious, fun conversation, arguments sometimes, but in good spirits, camaraderie, Having time together. The whiskey is a function of that. It really is. Isaac says the secret to downing a can of beans for dinner is salt. Yeah, Isaac's a fun guy for sure. Well, I gotta go. Duty calls. But thank you guys for drinking with me. Thank you for joining my impromptu live stream. I'm so glad you guys could be here. Overall, final thoughts. My final thoughts, 1792 full proof. I would drink it before it's half empty. Now that this is half empty, I'm going to drink this very quickly. This will be finished probably tomorrow. This Booker's, though, the No Secret 1792, this is phenomenal. And I will say this has opened up much better. This has gotten better with time for me. I brought this to a party pretty full. It left pretty empty. I let it sit for a while pretty empty. And I really like it right now. So, No Secret 2015-06. Definitely worth picking up if you can find it. Good luck, though. It's hard to find. Bought that off of a friend. Tomorrow will be better. Thank you, Trevor. I really appreciate that. Mike McAllister, I'm sure that Isaac will be able to help you with that in the future. Just stay in the chat. Hopefully you and Isaac will both be here tomorrow. Tomorrow. I'm doing this thing again tomorrow at 8:30, and we will have time to talk about diet. That's something I would love to talk about more too. So I hope Isaac and Mike will be here tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Is it daylight time? It's daylight time. Eastern daylight time. But for most people, that doesn't matter. But for some people, it does. See you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for drinking with me. I got 7. I hate to leave because I got 7 people in the chat. But you know what? The lady takes priority. And my lady calls. So I will see the 7 of you tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We're going to drink. We're going to kill some bottles in celebration of my new house. Today was kind of mourning the problems with my new house. But tomorrow we're celebrating it. So until then, you guys keep looking like professionals. I'm going to get out of here. Cheers. How do I stop this thing anyway?